senatorial primary over Congresswoman Haley Stevens. The one-point victory is the culmination of a bruising campaign between a far-left Islamist and a mainstream, albeit very liberal, establishment Democrat. Bill Johnson is founder and president of the Michigan-based American Decency Association.
The close race that was run between these two candidates, it's clear that it was going to be that kind of a battle all the way to the end. The lines of demarcation are deep and wide in the Democratic Party. The so-called moderates, which we don't really think there is such a thing nationwide, nor in Michigan either. Either way, we were going to have a very, very liberal person. The greater concern, obviously, is with Syed. So we've got marching orders of great concern.
Johnson believes Republican nominee Mike Rogers, who had no primary challenger, has a great chance of defeating El Sayed in November.
The information that we've been getting consistently that running against El Sayed for Rogers would be an easier pathway. At the same time, it's very important for our listeners to recognize, to remember that Republicans have not won a U.S. Senate spot. It's been many, many years. So Mike Rogers is in for a difficult fight, but we think that he still has a better chance than any Republican candidate that we've had for quite some time now.
An average of pre-primary polls compiled by Real Clear Polling had Rogers leading El Sayed by 3 points. I'm Chad Groening.
In other election-related news, Texas Democrat Senate candidate James Tallarico has accused his opponent, Republican Ken Paxton, of voter fraud. However, the Texas Tribune reports Tallarico's own voter registration is raising questions. The Tribune and ProPublica found that Tallarico voted in 5 elections using his parents' address after buying a home for himself nearby, a practice that may have violated state voting laws. Tensions remain high in the Middle East as the U.S. and Iran try to reach a peace deal. Fox's Trey Yinks reports from Tel Aviv.
The Israelis are conducting new airstrikes against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon after what were described to Fox News as severe ceasefire violations. This does come as President Trump says he believes a deal with Iran could be reached as early as today. In an interview with Fox News, the president said that talks happened all day on Tuesday and that things are looking very good. The focus remains on the Strait of Hormuz, a critical international waterway that handles roughly 20% of the world's oil and LNG trade. CENTCOM released a statement saying the southern route through the Strait of Hormuz remains free and open. Talks also continue between Iran and Oman, aimed at reaching an understanding on control of the strait.
Fox Weather's Craig Herrera has an update on the wildfires that continue to burn throughout Washington state.
The roads are closed into the neighborhoods that are so severely impacted that our homes are gone. We have Spokane police in place, as well as the Washington National Guard, trying to keep folks out of that side of the neighborhood. They are still under mandatory or the evacuation 3 zones, so not allowed back in. 37-year-old Aaron Farinacci was arrested on first-degree arson, suspected of perhaps lighting the fire, the spark that led this fire once those flames really picked up. That happening on Saturday afternoon. Farinacci appearing in court yesterday, the state of Washington versus Aaron Farinacci, the judge beginning with making sure that he understood his rights. He said, "Yes, Your Honor."
An emergency declaration has been declared for most of eastern Washington. Colorado State University released its August update for the Atlantic hurricane season. They continue to call for a well below average season. They are forecasting 9 named storms, 4 of which will be hurricanes and 1 that is a Category 3 or higher. In April, they call for 13 named storms. Researchers are extremely confident a strong El Niño will be present during the peak of the hurricane season. They also say the probability of a major hurricane making landfall anywhere along the U.S. coastline this year has dropped to 16%, down from 24% in June. That's all our time for now. You can see more news at afn.net.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Nurse Mama Show, prescribing hope for healthy families here on American Family Radio. Here's your host, Professor, Pediatric Nurse Practitioner, and Mama for Dr. Jessica Peck.
Well, hey there, friends. It's my favorite time of day, getting to spend time with you. prescribing hope for healthy families, and I hope that you're having a great week. We are in the middle of the week, and so many families are right in the middle of back to school craziness. And as we think about going back to school, before I get into it with my guests today and we start sharing some encouragement that we have for you today, I want to remind you that this week at American Family Radio is National Truth for Youth Bible Week. Now, this is an initiative with Tim Todd's ministry, Revival Fires International. They're partnering together with American Family Radio to give Bibles to kids going back to school. And how it works is you can get a Bible to give to a kid who can give it to their friend. These are New Testament Bibles, comic style, visually engaging, true to the gospel. And you guys have been amazing. So on Monday, we had you all called in. We had about 10,000 Bibles, and we had 10,000 Bibles given away yesterday too. Is that not amazing? 10,000 Bibles a day. And I think we're in the middle of the week. And if you've been listening and you've been meaning to call, you can call now at 800-733-4737. That's 800-733-4737. Or you can go to TFY.org, truthforyouth.org. And as you're going into all of the stores and you see all of those school supplies, now I am your classic nerd. I am the oldest kid. I am the one who always, like to have the school supplies all organized and my pencils all sharpened and all ready. So seeing school supplies is pretty exciting for me. But sometimes you see them and you think, oh no, is it that time of year again? Regardless of how you feel, I encourage you, walk over to that row, walk over to that aisle, and pray for the kid who will be using those. Those are tangible supplies. And there is a real life child who's going to be using those with who was beautifully created in the image of God. And just pray for them, pray over their school year. And as you're doing that, we're going to really equip the families today who are in that back to school rush. We got a back to school boot camp for you today, and it is not with none other than Kathi Lipp, the decluttering expert. We are having an episode of the Declutter Diaries today. And today we're talking about back to school. How do you launch your kids without losing your mind? It is possible, although I know it can seem impossible in so many of those stressors. And when I think about back to school, I love seeing the pictures of back to school start to flood my feed, because you see all of these kids with fresh haircuts and maybe they have glasses because, they needed those. They have a lunchbox. They're just so fresh faced and so shining with hope, with expectations for the year. And there is so much work that goes into that picture. And I see all of the parents who have talked about the first day jitters and really prepared their child so specifically, all of the things that they've had to do. One of the things I want to encourage you is as you're looking through those pictures, there may be some of you who have older kids and you're thinking, oh, those were the days when my kids were smaller and they liked me more and I was the sun in their universe. And, they bring home the pictures and you're feeling nostalgic for those days. And maybe you show your kids the pictures and say, oh, look, these were the days. I just want to give you a gentle reminder that I have to give to myself too, because I have growing kids. Don't love who your kids used to be more than you love and express hope in who they are becoming. Love every stage. And if you look back at those stages, tell what you like about that stage, but tell what you love about this stage too. Focus on their character, compliment their character. And so those pictures are never going to be something that we'll call clutter. But Kathi, you are here to help us get it together, because somehow we can have the best of intentions and then just August and September just runs over us like a dump truck. So thank you, Kathi, for coming. We're so looking forward to all that you have to help empower and encourage us today.
Well, I could not. This is my favorite place to be each month. And while I don't have kids at home who were getting their pencil boxes ready, I remember those days distinctly. And I am like you. I am an office supply nerd, or school supply nerd, and I have to be on a physical time out for getting new things, because it's so easy to want to buy all the things and think, okay, now we're prepared. But you're right. There's so much more that goes into it. We don't want to overwhelm people, but we want you to be girded.
Well, I confess, Kathy, I confess right here. I'm sitting at my desk. Look, this is the Declutter Diaries after all. This package is empty. I just opened it because why do I need a package that had 4 different shades of pink pens? I succumbed right here. It had the gel pens. I was like, oh, I love the pink pens, and I bought it. I shouldn't have. So I'm sorry. This is the clutter that I brought into my house today, Kathy. But I couldn't resist. It was so fun to have that. But give us a starting point here. Where do we even start? Where do we prepare our hearts and minds to think, okay, here it comes, the lunch boxes, the backpacks, the forms we have to fill out. Like, you're about to have some stuff come into your house and into your head. Where do we even start to prepare ourselves?
So one of my favorite lines that I've been saying for 15 years, now is the time to take care of your future self. And now is the time to take care of your kids' future self. So any decision you can make in August, and by the way, I know some of you are heading back to school next week. It blows my mind. I think of middle of September as being school, but no, we're in the dead middle of summer. But there are certain things you can do now that is going to make the day to day a little bit easier. And so that's what I always think about. If you're a cluttery person, oftentimes you're just stressing in the moment. And there are 2 ways that you may want to reframe your thinking. Taking care of our future self. How am I going to take care of the Jessica that is tired or has too much going on or the day is too long? And then what about the Jessica who can take advantage of all that preparation and say, you know what, I may not have done everything perfectly, but man, I'm in a much better place. Thank you, Jesus. And I can rest in that, and I can do better the next day. And I can just build on that and take advantage of the preparation I've done.
Well, let's talk about taking care of ourselves, because that is really important. And when we think of back to school, especially I think as a mom, we think about what all of our kids need. You start going through, what have they outgrown and what supplies do they need and who needs new glasses, all those kinds of things. But you've talked about this before, how it's like being on the airplane. Put your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
And if you're going into this dysregulated, burned out, already overwhelmed, like it's contagious. That chaos is contagious. So let's talk about some specific ways that we can prepare ourselves to meet the chaos that is ensuing.
Okay, so the first thing I would say is all summer long, bedtime slip, right? Because especially if you're not going to school regularly or you're home, whatever that is, it's easy to let those things kind of slide. And so now is the time to start, setting your own bedtime that is going to make it easier. We all do so much better when we've had enough sleep. So start working on your bedtime, start working on the kids' bedtimes. Can you shift their bedtime 15 minutes earlier? Just so, and my mom used to have something with me. I was a constant getter upper, right? And she said, Kathy, I don't care if you're in your room till midnight playing cards, because back then I was playing solitaire all the time. She goes, but your feet cannot hit the full floor. And I was asleep in 15 minutes. I just had that FOMO. Had the fear of missing out on all the cool stuff that was happening with my parents. They were just watching TV probably. But figuring out how can you get your kids to be in bed earlier. You can start waking up earlier so that when school hits, it's not chaos. Another thing I would say is pick out the first week of clothes. And I'm not just talking about your kids' clothes, I'm talking about your clothes. What decisions can you make now so it's not a decision on the day? My days look very different depending on whether I'm on an interview for the Dr. Nurse Mama show or I'm writing, on one of my books. So I know what those clothes should look like. You know what your clothes should look like for the coming week. And so whether it's with your kids or if they're younger for your kids, pick out their clothes. We used to use just a shoe sorter and when my kids were little and just stack their clothes in there. The other thing you can do is just have one drawer. This is the next 5 days worth of clothes and everything's in there. They're ready to go. And you empty out that drawer during the week, but also have yours. What I do is I have a hanger. It has the pants, the shirt, and I have Ziploc bags with a hole punched in them for the earrings. And I can figure it out from there, but I don't have to decide, is that clean? Is it ready to go? Those are some of the decisions I've made in advance.
That is really helpful because then that's how you don't end up putting the same wrinkled sweatpants. Use a sweatsuit, that you took off and you're wearing that 3 days in a row and hoping that no other parents notice because it's so chaotic. I think sometimes we forget about that. We'll lay out our kids' clothes, but I like the idea, Kathi, of laying out a whole week's worth of clothes. And these things, it doesn't matter if this is kids going back to school or if this is just you in whatever stage of life you're in, trying to get back in a routine. This is good for you. It's good for you and your spouse to go to bed at the same time, to have a bedtime routine, to pick out your clothes so that your mornings aren't more chaotic. This is for anybody. And you also have a really great tip about a Sunday reset. So I want to hear about this.
Yeah. So I think it's 15 minutes and you can only get this one thing done in that 15 minutes, but this could be critical. What is happening in the coming week? Where are the friction points are going to be? Who's picking up Christy from soccer? Do we have, to think about, do I have everything I need for lunches? Or am I going to run out on Wednesday? Like just looking at the week. And if you can see the obstacles ahead, you don't have to crash into them. You say, okay, we can make a plan B. Or guess what? You are buying lunch on Thursday. Everything is figure outable. But you have to know it's coming. And knowing it's coming doesn't mean at 7:42 on Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so true. I think that reset and just preparing for the week is so important. And I think most parents can probably relate to this because when you do it, when you prep in advance, every time you go back to that prep, you're just like, oh, this was so good. Why don't I do this all the time?
Yeah.
And
Past Kathi rocks. I love Sunday Kathi. She's amazing, right? You feel so good about yourself. And it teaches your kids capability too.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that you say is to protect one night, keep a weeknight so that, if something comes up during the week, you've got one night that that you can catch up on. You can go to the grocery store if your kids, eat more than you thought that they would, or a project comes up or something happens. But I think that's something that you're pre-deciding. And that's something you've been teaching us to do, Kathi, is to pre-decide that and say, this is the night that we're staying home.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's so easy to say, well, that square on the calendar is blank. I can fill that up. So, and some families need to protect more than one night. If you have neurodivergent kids, if you have kids who school is a big lift for them, maybe it needs to be a couple of different nights. And it's not just about kids' activities, it's about our activities. I have decided because I don't have kids at home, I can do 2 volunteer activities at a time. That's it. I'm on my church's sermon team and I'm on the school board here in our tiny little town. That's my capacity. Do I have more blank spaces? Absolutely. Am I so excited when a blank space shows up on my calendar? Oh, it makes me so happy. I can't even stand it.
Well, Kathi, when we come back, we're going to talk about we're talking about agentic systems. When we're talking about agentic AI, that's AI that basically perpetuates itself. And we're going to talk about some systems that run without you, how to create a system that runs without you. You won't want to miss it. Get calm in the back to school chaos. We'll talk more with Kathi Lipp when we come back.
One of the greatest concentrations of young people and one of the most fertile missionary fields is the community of students in public schools, and we have a way to reach them. It's Truth for Youth Bible Week with Revival Fires International.
I'm so happy that my friend gave me the Truth for Youth Bible. It healed so many emotional hurts that I had. It changed my life.
More than 30,000 young people have received Christ over the years with the help of the Truth for Youth Bible. We'll give one free Truth for Youth Bible to every student between the ages of 13 and 18 who promises to pass it along to a friend.
And there was even a comic in there that talked about the dangers of witchcraft in ways that I never even considered. And there was a page in Truth for Youth that showed me how to give my heart to Jesus. I just prayed, and Jesus forgave me of my sins.
Visit tfy.org anytime or call 800-733-4737 between 8:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. to order or donate. It's Truth for Youth Bible Week with Revival Fires International and American Family Radio.
Hi, I'm Jan Harper. If you're a pastor's wife, you know both the blessings and the unique challenges that come with the life you and your husband live daily. We call it living in the fishbowl.
Details have been announced for the 2026 Pastors and Wives Fishbowl Retreat. Once again, this year's retreat will be at Pickwick Landing State Park in Counce, Tennessee. From October 20th through the 22nd, pastors and their wives will enjoy rest, renewal, and fellowship hosted by Pastor Bert Harper, Director of Marriage, Family, and Pastoral Ministries at AFA and co-host of Exploring the Word on AFR, and his wife, Jan. Our special speaker will be J.J. Jasper of AFR. Your registration fee covers lodging, meals, and materials. All you need to do is get there. The annual AFA Pastors and Wives Fishbowl Retreat, October 20th through 22nd. Learn more and register at repairingthefoundations.net.
We'd love to see you there.
Hi, this is Jim Scudder with today's Moment in Grace. An amazing God leaves his fingerprints all over creation. Consider salmon. It hatches in a freshwater stream, swims out to spend its life in the ocean, then near the end feels an urge to go home. It fights upstream against rivers and rapids and waterfalls. How could it ever find that one small stream again? God gave it two gifts, a sense of Earth's magnetic field that maps the way, and a sense of smell so keen that it can recognize the exact minerals of its birthplace. Some don't make it, but most press on and return to spawn the next generation. The lesson here is simple. Refuse to quit, even when it's hard. For more daily devotionals, visit ingraceradio.com.
Lord, I'm just grateful that I got to wake up today. You take my worries and hurries and fade them to gray. You have good plans for me, that's what you say. That's how I know everything is gonna be. I woke up late and the house is a wreck. Couple bills on the counter I don't wanna check. The car needs gas and an oil change. I guess I'll get around to that next. Cause my son's doing front flips on the floor, and I'm supposed to be a silly dinosaur. Somewhere in the mess I look to you, and a new song starts to break through. Lord, I'm just grateful that I got to wake up today. You take my worries and hurries and fade them to gray. You have good plans for me, that's what you say. That's how I know everything is gonna be okay. Yeah. We're gonna be okay. Yeah.
Welcome back, friends. That is Okay by Forrest Frank. It's a great midweek song, and it's a great reminder that everything is going to be okay. I know that a lot of you out there listening have already gone back to school. Some of you are going back to school soon, and some of you are saying, what? Y'all are going back to school? We don't do that till after Labor Day. Well, I'm jealous, but wherever you are in the back to school chaos, the good news is that no matter what happened, everything can be okay. And you can get off to the wrong start. You can have the best intentions and somehow back to school chaos can just cause a lot of conflict in families. And I'm talking today on an episode of the Declutter Diaries with Kathi Lipp, and we're talking to families on how you can get back into a routine. Now, it doesn't matter. Maybe you don't have kids at home going to school. Maybe you're going to start watching the grandkids after school. That's going to start back up. Or maybe you just think, you know what? Me and my spouse are empty nesters, or maybe you're single, whatever it is, and you think, I have gotten off of the routine and I am just feeling like I'm running on the hamster wheel and everything is chaotic. And I kind of feel like I've done that. So it's the end of summer. So maybe or maybe not. My husband might have spent 30 minutes trying to help me find my keys. What did I do with my keys last night? I've got to get back and get organized. And Kathy's had some great advice so far. What we've talked about is putting your oxygen mask on first. As parents, making sure that we are taking care of ourselves, that we're getting sleep, that we're eating well, that we're moving our bodies well, that we're getting sunshine, we're touching grass, all the things. Because if we are not prepared for that, it doesn't matter how much pressure we put on our kids to do the right thing. We've got to lead by example. And Kathi, we were just talking about agentic systems, which we were both kind of laughing about. That is a new term that's coming, and actually agentic AI is really exciting and really terrifying at the same time. It's kind of terraciting. I'll just put that together. Yeah. But yes, let's talk about creating some systems without AI, but systems in your home that will run themselves, because that's really that's the goal.
Okay, so I want you to have a new easy button in your life. And I know the easy button for a lot of families is a DoorDash. You know, like, okay, everything's crazy. We're just gonna get DoorDash. And I live somewhere that doesn't have DoorDash, but when I've done it in a hotel, I'm like, I didn't know it cost twice as much. And so that's a hard thing to fit into your budget, but some nights you just need a break. So instead, first of all, I want you to get rid of everything in your freezer that had good intentions but has been in there.
I feel persecuted.
For way too. Oh, you know what? I'm right there with you on the judging block. I really am. But could you have a shelf that had maybe 6 to 8 meals in it that are things your family would love? Like, it's been a hard day. You know what sounds really good is a frozen pizza. Like, a pizza sounds really good. And if you're shopping at Aldi's or Trader Joe's or Costco, those pizzas could be $4 or $5 instead of 40 or 50. And I'm not exaggerating. Where I live, pizzas can be around $40 to $50.
That's insane.
So could you have that where you're like, okay, one night during the week, it's going to be easy. And so just go ahead and preload that, get a menu on the outside of the freezer, and just mark them off as you go. Another thought is have the same dinner every Monday night for a month. Have the same dinner every Tuesday night for a month. And if you're like, well, that's not enough chaos for me, that's awesome. You can be as chaotic as you want. But if you just need to get through that first month of school, what if every Monday was that Costco chicken with a side salad and some mashed potatoes? Nobody at your house is going to object to it. And the decision-making goes down by a ton. And we're just looking for easy. I would suggest the same thing for breakfast. Maybe you have the same breakfast every day. If that works for you, that's awesome. Or, we're going to have yogurt on Monday, and on Tuesday, we're going to make our own egg sandwiches. I would just say keep it as dead simple, easy as you possibly can. It may be the month to just buy the convenience at Costco or Sam's.
And I gotta say, Kathi, I was just going to add, I think one of the, what we say in academics, maybe I shouldn't admit this publicly, but we do say this. We have this phrase that we say, it's called see one, do one, teach one. That's what we say in healthcare. And what I'm thinking is maybe, what if you even did that for a month, where you had the same, like you just planned, like for this month, we're having, like you said, like spaghetti every Monday night. We're having tacos every Tuesday night, because Who doesn't love a Taco Tuesday? I love a
Taco
Taco
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
yeah.
Or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And I think if you're repeating those meals, if you have kids who are of the age that they're
Yes.
developmentally capable of cooking, you can teach them how to cook. They can see it, and then they can do it, and then they can teach the other siblings, and they could take a turn to do it, because that would be another thing I think that would be helpful, and also teach them some life skills. So you've actually got me thinking about that. We may, I know my husband's listening. Honey, we may have Taco Tuesday for a month. He knows that I do anything to have to have tacos for dinner.
Right?
But I think this is a good idea.
You know what? And it doesn't necessarily have to be the same kind of tacos. Like one of my
that's
favorite
true.
tacos is tempura shrimp. We buy the frozen ones at Costco and we put that on with some slaw and cilantro. I mean, it's just amazing. And so, yes, you can have creativity, but what I'm trying to do and what you are doing is we're trying to help you limit the decisions. And if you have one kid who's going to make the spaghetti and meatballs every Wednesday night, and at first they're going to need help with the boiling of the noodles and how you do that and everything. But the other parts of it are pretty darn simple. And so to be able to pull all that together, the first time it's going to take you 3 times as long as it normally would. But eventually that investment in training your kids is going to pay you back in multitudes. I would say another thing that I think is critically important is, if at all possible, start every morning off with an empty dishwasher.
Now that's just radical.
I know it is radical, right? But
Yeah.
there is no law that says your dishes have to make a stop in the sink before they go into the dishwasher. And so if you can actually teach your kids to rinse and load the dishwasher, you can do this for, a couple nights of training is what it's going to take. And then the sink is no longer a parking lot. And I never want to do this. I hate doing dishes more than any other chore in the house. I really do. And this is the one that can often have the biggest payoff.
Well, one of the things that you said that I thought was really funny is, stand next to the kid for 2 nights and teach them how to do it, rather than being annoyed about it for 2 years.
Right?
You just keep saying, do it, do it, do it. That's so true. Another great pre-deciding, pre-planning. We've talked about this before, Kathi, but I think this is a really great idea. And for me, as a nurse, I think you can also pre-decide some healthier options, is to build a lunch station. I got to get on a podium. I got to get on a soapbox for just a second here.
Please,
and
go ahead.
just say, I think it's really important for kids to learn how to make their own lunch. They need to be self-sufficient in that way. And if you build a lunch station and you just have readily accessible food that they can just build their own lunch, that's going to make it easier for you, and that's going to make it easier for them. And you could even, if they're younger, you could have a little chart that shows like, okay, get 2 veggies, or a fruit and a veggie, or whatever it is. But tell us about building a lunch station and what tips you have for that.
Yeah, so I like bins. I'm a big believer in bins. So if you have one bin that has, here are the apples, the oranges, the pears, whatever fruit that you are picking for that week's lunches. And it could be a couple of different things, but having great fruit that everybody loves. And then another bin that has, that you can keep in the fridge that has, is it lunch meat? Is it cheese? Is it condiments? Is it the lettuce and tomatoes? All of that in one bin that you can just pull out. And whether the kids are making their own sandwiches or you are, I'll tell you this, my husband is a genius. He's brilliant. And I cannot tell you how much he loves that I put out the food for him to make his sandwich, or I put out, and I do it for me too. But for some reason, he gets overwhelmed going into the fridge. And sometimes kids do too. So just having these different bins, and that also helps you notice, hey, we're running low on these Rice Crisps, or we're running low on the little packages of carrots. And so if you're not buying the carrot, the baby carrots in the little packages, can you make those ahead in just some snack size Ziplocs or something like that? Just having things that it's much more available to grab and go. But kids, when they choose their own stuff, even healthy stuff, they are much more likely to eat it than if they get there and it's like, okay, it's celery sticks, something that they had no voice in. As an illusion of choice still empowers your kids, even if it's just a choice between these chopped up celery sticks or these chopped up carrots. That still is a choice that they've made and they're invested in their lunch.
Well, let's talk about a really hot topic, Kathi, something that is perhaps the bane of parents' existence today and can really, I know, as soon as I say what this is, people are going to go on a tirade. I'm talking about the problem that is the water bottle, Kathi, the water bottles in the house. And I know I can already hear my husband saying, we didn't have water bottles when we were growing up and somehow we still stayed hydrated. But the water bottle is just, it is just a thing. And it feels like it is, they're just everywhere, and that I've lost mine and I don't know where the straw is or where the lid is. Yeah. Do you have any lifelines for how we don't have family fights over water bottles?
Yes. So a couple of different things. Make sure you have the equipment to clean it. Make sure you have the straw brushes and the bottle brushes, and teach your kids how to do it properly. The next thing I would say is let your kids individualize their water bottles as much as you can. So the stickers and everything, because for the most part, we're not sticking those in the dishwasher. We're washing them at the sink, but they're going to have more ownership if they actually have for my niece, her water bottle is an extension of her personality. Like, you could look at that water bottle and you know that that's Elsa's. The other thing I would say is that make sure your last name and a parent's phone number is on the bottom of that water bottle. We don't want kids' phone numbers on there if they already have phones, but so that they can be returned, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the things I would say. I think it's really important to let kids know, hey, if you lose your water bottle, this is how much they are. So we have to decide what kind of chores you'll be doing to replace that. Until then, you can use the one I got at the conference. And that's real motivation, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I think that, I know there were certain things I had as a kid that I'm like, I don't come home without these. And as there are going to be kids who are going to lose everything, but to give you every opportunity to either get it home or to find it once it's been lost.
Well, that is great advice. And let's talk about other things that we can do to have preparation. You have so many great ideas. I don't even know. Where do you want to go next?
Okay, so I think one thing to do right now, right this minute, is figure out what appointments your kids need especially for the rest of 2026. So do they need sports physicals? Do they need vaccination? What do they need? When are your haircuts going to be? Because right now, if you want a haircut in October, there's plenty of space. You could get all the kids in one day. But if you're trying to make that in, September 30th for October, you're going to be running back and forth. So can you chunk out all your appointments? Can you chunk them out on the weeks that they don't have school? Or, when it's convenient for you, instead of just having to take what's left over. So I think that is the thing that if I'm going to tell you to do anything, is put your nurse hat on. Do you need to refill some prescriptions right now? And make sure you're taking care of yourself too. You're a dependent in your own family. And we also know if mom's down, it's hard. It's hardest on mom. It's hard on everybody else. So let's make sure you're taking care of yourself, that your health isn't coming in last. So I know you can agree with that.
I definitely can. Absolutely.
Anything else that they should know about booking in advance, or anything about scheduling appointments? Go for it.
Okay, I will go for it because I think that is really important. One of the things that you and I talked about in one of our recent conversations, Kathy, was creating your own, making sure, organize everybody's medical record and having a one-pager that you can take with you for everything. I would go back and listen to that because I have done that now for our family. Everybody's got an electronic health record, but to have that one-pager that you can give to the person who doesn't know your kid or the new school nurse and just say, hey, this is it. That's really important. Listen, we'll be right back, and we're going to talk about front-loading your calendar with Kathi Lipp. We'll see you after this break.
When you hear this
is American Family News.
You know what follows is the truth. Your news from a Christian perspective.
Hundreds of teachers are going to have to walk into that school building, and they are forced to swallow political ideology that in many cases violates their very faith and conscience.
If you miss it at the top of the hour, American Family News podcasts are available at afn.net. And sign up for our daily news brief at afn.net. AFA Stream is a resource for life-changing instruction and information, a source of wholesome entertainment and relaxation, plus access to some of your favorite AFA shows. You can watch a lot of content for free, or you can become a Great Commission partner. Then you'll not only open the door to everything AFA Stream has to offer, you'll get benefits like a subscription to The Stand and some really nice exclusives. Why not get started today? It's easy. Visit stream.afa.net. They say when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. But what do you do when it feels like life is throwing the lemons at you full force? That's kind of a funny way to think of it, but there are times when there's so much going on in the world and it's happening so fast, you don't know where to go for answers or for encouragement. The solution for that is simple: American Family Radio. You'll find out what's happening and why, what you can do to take action, and it's all from a biblical perspective. What better way to find hope in the middle of a bombardment of lemons? Over the air or with the app on your phone, tablet, Roku TV, or smart speaker, you have AFR at your fingertips pretty much anywhere. And with the podcasts of each program, you can catch up on anything you missed or listen to it again. If you're new, or if you've been with us a long time, visit us today. Stop by afr.net. afr.net.
So I did discuss my options for abortion.
After a series of health issues, this mom felt termination was the only answer.
Was still borderline thinking abortion until the little part at the bottom of the ultrasound started moving, and we realized there were two.
Preborn clinics are there for moms in crisis, offering free ultrasounds and the gospel in action. At just 11 weeks old, these twins cried out for life.
Just seeing that, I said, I can't. I can't. The ultrasound is what sealed the deal.
Preborn clinics have rescued over 450,000 babies from abortion. To learn more, dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby, or visit preborn.com/AFR.
With foes on my left and fears on my right, they think that I'm all by myself in this fight, but they do not know the infinite size of the God who is by my side. Hey, under fire, but my Goliath standing in the shadow of the Almighty. I ain't lying, just testifying. Man, I'm talking about a big God, big God. When trouble comes around the way, only remedy for big odds is a big God. Ain't nobody gonna shake my faith. No, I'm not afraid. Throw my hands up in praise for the times that He pulled me through. I'm counting on a big God that they can't stop. He's a big God.
Welcome back, friends. That is Big God by Tyrion. And we do serve a big God who can handle anything that we throw his way for sure. And one of the things that we can be as families, we can be wrestling with at this time of year is back to school chaos and back to school clutter. And people often ask me, why do you talk about this so much? Because I see clutter as one of the primary causes of conflict within families. When we're disorganized, when we can't find things, when we don't set our kids up for success and they lose their soccer cleats again while we are screaming at them for not being responsible and we're trying to find our keys. Or wait, is that just me? That's what happens. Or when are you going to clean off the dining room table so that we don't have to eat around the island anymore? All of these things really create tension, and we're just going so fast. We are living at the speed of a smartphone. I'm just talking about this a lot so that we can work together to make small incremental changes to set our families up for success. So this is the Declutter Diaries. We're talking with Kathi Lipp, and you can find Kathi at her Clutter-Free Academy. You can go on Facebook, just tell her you're friends of the show. She lets you in for free. She loves our people. She loves our listeners, and you can join people who are on a really serious journey, who are saying, okay, it is time. It is time for me to take back control of our life. And today we're talking about back to school boot camp. What can we do? And we've already talked about putting your oxygen mask on first, taking care of yourself, not just getting the kids' backpack ready, but your work bag, your gym bag, whatever it is, wherever you're going, making sure that you are pre-deciding and setting yourself up for success. And we've also talked about creating some systems that run without you, having the same meal maybe every Monday night for a month, or maybe even longer than that. And other things that we've talked about, really equipping your kids, having a lunch station, having a launch pad by the door. We've talked about this before, which is really good. Having an emergency kit in the car so that when you get there and you realize, they haven't brushed their teeth, like, okay, we've got to set them up for success later. But right now, let's bless everyone around you by giving you a disposable toothbrush before you walk into that school. And Kathi, one of the things that we're starting to look at, and I know I was looking at my calendar today, and I mean, just starting to look at, okay, what do I need to do? And let me just say this one last thing, and then we'll talk about the calendar, because we were talking about health appointments. It's really important. If you have the resources, and there are a lot of times resources that you're not aware of. So don't be afraid if you think like, I don't have dental insurance, I don't know how to take my kids to the dentist. Talk to your primary care provider about it and just say, I need, do you know of any resources? Do you know? Because there's a lot of resources that maybe you're not even aware of. The kids need to have a checkup with a primary care provider. They need to have their eyes checked. They need to have their teeth checked. They need to have oral health. Those things are really important, but going to that primary care provider is going to be your anchor. You really need somebody who you trust, and then they'll tell you everything else that you need to do. That's somebody you're trusting with your life. But Kathi, let's go back to the calendar and talk about how can we pre-decide some things while we're talking about those health appointments. What else do we pre-decide on the calendar before it gets away from us?
So book any standing appointments you can today. We talked a little bit in the last segment, well visits, dentist, eye exams, like you were just talking about, orthodontist, haircuts, anything that you can. The earlier you book, the more control you have over when that happens. And especially if you're working full time, that's going to be critical. There are only certain things that can be done on the weekends, and you want to be able to have as much control over that as you possibly can. And this may be a time where you need to, call in the troops. Can grandma or grandpa take them for some of the things that aren't quite so critical? It takes a team to, make this family run. Also, almost as important as all those health appointments, what about your vacations? Or are there going to be long weekends or even a weekend at grandma's? Put those on your calendar so that you can tell your kids, hey, we're not doing anything the weekend of the 14th because we're going to be at grandma's, or we've decided to go on vacation. Because it's very easy to let one random kid from school's birthday ruin the potential for being able to get away as a family. So family comes first. You put those things in first. We've all heard the illustration about putting the large rocks in and you put the sand around it. And anything outside your family starts to become sand, and you put those big rocks in first. Also, we talked about those sports physicals, vision screening, all that kind of stuff. Make sure that if your kid has some health needs, that you've got the school nurse, you've got her phone number or his phone number on speed dial. You know when that call is coming in. Work with them, make an appointment if you can to say, hey, here's what's going on with my child's health. Here's when I would definitely want you to call in. And here are some things that they know how to do on their own. I think having that conversation can alleviate a lot of panic for a parent. I know you've got some advice about this.
Well, I do. It's really good. I love what you said about putting the school nurse as a contact in your phone. Find out what the school nurse phone number is and add it as a contact, because in that way, because I have been that school nurse, Kathi, where you're calling and calling and people are so hesitant to pick up a number they don't know because they think it's, a scam or something like that. But once I see school nurse pick up, that's how I have it in my phone. School nurse pick up.
So smart.
Because then because you don't want them to have thrown up and then be sitting there in dirty clothes, just waiting. And then who likes to be that parent where you feel so bad? It's like, I've been trying to get a hold of you for an hour and a half and you feel so bad.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea. You also have a great idea about pre-deciding what happens if a kid gets sick. Kathi, I see this all the time. It's like, oh my gosh, well, I have work, you have work, or I have this, charity thing, I have a volunteer thing, I have to take this one to the doctor. Like, what do you do? Pre-deciding your plan, I think, is brilliant. And I'll tell you, we actually, my husband and I, when my kids were young, we already had this plan. Like if a kid wakes up and throws up in the night, I know, I'm sorry. Some people are like, oh, I don't want to think about this stage of life.
Right.
But this is a reality. Our plan was my husband took the mess and I took the kid. Like that's just, we just knew it. We didn't even have to say anything. It was just like, because if you got 4 kids, I mean, somebody's going to throw up at some time. So we just get up and it's like, all right, he's going to go get the bed stripped and clean up the room. I'm going to clean up the kid. And we didn't even talk. It was great because it's in the middle of the night. What advice do you have for pre-deciding that sick day policy? What do you do?
A couple of things. Yes. So mom and dad need to discuss this together. And also, who are your backups? Because I remember when my kids were younger, I had the more flexible schedule, but sometimes there were things that were pretty hard for me to move. And Roger was the person. I really think it's important that the school nurse knows both parents can be called. And it's not just mom, it's dad. We've got 2 parents in this family. And I usually was the one to do it, but sometimes Roger was the parent who would make that happen. Also making sure that dad, grandma, grandpa, neighbor, whoever it is, has that school nurse's number in their phones too, so they know to pick up as well. But I think, for us, one of the things that the decisions we made is mornings were really important to me with work. And so I would go and do the morning, and at lunchtime, I would take the rest of the day off and I would relieve Roger, who then would work. And so that was the system that worked for us, but also knowing that you have a backup plan. And for a lot of us, my backup plan was a friend and I was her backup plan. And we made it work, but knowing that there's more than one adult that is the bottom line is really, really important.
That is really helpful. I think absolutely. Just deciding before, and asking that person, can you be my backup? Can I call you if anything happens? And then they already know that. And they just say okay, remember when I said that you were going to be my backup? This is that time. You're not having to explain yourself and everything. You're just saying, I think that's a great conversation to have even now, even talking to grandma or whoever it is, and just say, okay, if any of the kids get sick in the morning when they have to go to school, can I call you for help? And then just see, what is their schedule? How are they receptive to that? Who are you going to call for help? I think that's really helpful. And in that line, the other thing I wanted to point out that you said that I think is really important, Kathi, is protecting that blank space on your calendar and treating it not as an invitation, but as a closed a closed
Right.
opportunity there. And maybe you could even name it something with your family, like, nope, that's our catch up day, or no, that's our family first time, or no, that's our rest time, that's our reset. Whatever it is, I think I can see kids really looking forward to that. And one of the things that you talk about helping to visualize that is to get the calendar out of your phone and onto a wall. I do have this. We have a big calendar on our refrigerator so that everybody can see it, because everybody goes to the refrigerator every day. And we can see like,
Yes.
oh, he's got work today, oh, he's got football practice. Oh, she's, whatever that is. That's really helpful. So, and whether that's paper or whether that's digital, what do you see as the benefit of having a visible calendar like that?
Oh, I think what that says is it's enough. We have enough on the calendar. Nobody in this house is bored. And being able to see that calendar gets people on the same page. So if, one child needs to go here and the next child needs to go here, we only have one parent at home. We have to prioritize and we have to make plans. And I think the other thing, we talked about protecting that night. At least for the first month, protect that Saturday morning too, if at all possible. Little bodies and little brains going to school after being off for 10 weeks, that's exhausting. And one of the things that we always did, our first Saturday after school, they usually went Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We would do waffles because the batter could sit in the refrigerator until you woke up. And so not everybody had to get up at the same time that first Saturday for breakfast. Just whenever you got up, I would just step away. I'd pour you some waffles. It felt like a celebration, but also, if you needed to sleep until noon that day, we're going to let you do that because your body it needed that rest. But then we're going to get back on our schedule. So I think having that calendar that everybody can look at. And can we squeeze in one more thing? You know what? I'm going to call no on that just because all of us are grumpier when we're overbooked, and peace is the priority in our household.
You talked earlier about having that 15-minute Sunday reset. And I think some of the conversation, if we're really intentional and we ask our kids and we check in, especially frequently when we're going back to school, or you're just trying to get back on a routine or whatever it is, if you ask your family, ask your spouse, ask your kids, ask the grandparents who were helping you. If you have, extra family or help in your ecosystem, ask them and just say, what were the pain points this week? Like what didn't go well? Like what stressed us out? Where did conflict happen? And is there anything that we can do? And most of the time, Kathi, this is what I was going back to saying at the beginning of this segment when I opened it. Most of the time that conflict is going to happen around some sort of disorganization or clutter.
Yeah.
It's going to happen over, you didn't do the laundry because we couldn't find this thing in the dirty clothes, or you forgot this, or you were late, or we had to run out and disrupt our whole evening because we needed these supplies. I think that check-in is so important. And Kathi, we're already at the end of our time together, but just in a minute or so, any last encouragement for our just amazing listeners who are right there with us?
Oh my goodness. Everybody who is listening, be gentle with yourself. There are going to be problems the first week. There are going to be tears, most likely. And just know it's not always going to be like this. But if your goal is peace, you can get there a little bit at a time. Just how can you take care of your future self?
And Kathi, the last word that I would say is something that you have taught me as we get back to school. It's like our algorithm knows it. So it starts selling us all of these beautiful organization systems that we need. Listen, you don't need that. You need something livable that works for your family. It does not have to be Pinterest ready. It does not have to be social media swoon worthy. It just needs to work for your family. Again, you can go to Kathi Lipp's Clutter Free Academy on Facebook. You can get in there for free or listen to any of the past episodes of the Declutter Diaries. And wherever you are in your back to school journey, if you are just glad that that is something you're not having to deal with, if you're in the middle of it, if you're loving it, whatever you are, whatever you're doing, I pray as I always do, that the Lord will bless you and keep you and make his face to shine upon you and give you peace in the back to school chaos. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. We'll talk more back to school.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
To the corruptions of Christianity, I am indeed opposed, but not to the genuine precepts of Jesus himself. I am a Christian, that I embrace the teachings of Jesus Christ.
What did Thomas Jefferson really believe about Christianity? Hear more from Stephen McDowell on America's Providential History at afr.net/podcasts.
This is American Family Radio, a listener